you all for joining me. This is, as the slide says, the ACCG's 2022 Safety Discount and 2021 Employee Safety Grant Program overview. We're going to be talking about that today. The presentation will be sent out along with a link to the recording for your viewing. Again, if you weren't able to attend, if you're registered, it will be sent to all those that are registered. We're going to start with the 2022 Safety Discount overview and then go into the grant application or the grant process, because in order to qualify for the grant, you have to have been approved for the safety discount. So with that said, let's start. This is the grant brochure. If you don't have one, then you can definitely reach out to me. But this is, or not the grant brochure, it's the safety discount brochure. It should have been mailed to each of the counties. So there are hard copies available. If you don't have one, you can actually go to ACCG Insurance or ACCG.org insurance /GSIWCFD discount.php, and that will get you this particular web page. If you just go to the ACCG.org page, you can go to insurance and then go to this safety discount page, and it'll give you all these particular documents. The safety discount program for counties and authorities. You'll get a fillable safety action plan form. You have the safety verification forms, additional forms for workers' compensation, bill of rights, and so on, and then a safety coordinator resolution and policies. There's going to be a lot of documents that we talk about today, and they're all available online. So if you have any questions, you can definitely go there and get that information. But when we look at within the brochure itself, this basically the first page, and it really tells you some of the important things. We're going to cover these a few times within here, but the first one is the 3 LGRMS webinars and the crisis coordinator. As you all aware, in 2021, COVID-19 was present, and because of that, we have really reduced our face-to-face contact to help reduce the spread of that. So we have not done any regional training. In the past, we've required people to attend at least one of our regional training sessions. In substitute of that, because we're not doing that at this point in time, we'd ask you to do one of two things. One, attend 3 webinars and then write, a 1 or 2 or 3 paragraph summary of each of those webinars. You'd keep the registration for the webinar, so you could count this as one of those webinars. You could print off the registration for that or the email that you received, and then print off a 3-page or a 3-paragraph or 2-paragraph or 1-paragraph summary to show proof. If you have 3 of those, you'll be able to show your LGRMS risk consultant or loss control representative that when they come to do that verification, and that will meet that requirement. Or you can attend the crisis coordinator program, and again, I'll try and send out this link. This is a great program, and we would recommend that every member of ACCG have at least one person go through this particular training. It's about 3.5 hours, but it's quality training. It's really focused on what you should be doing in regards to communication during a crisis. So it identifies what a crisis is and then what to do after that. And again, because you're not an expert, the biggest thing is really to pick up the phone and give us a call or give our expert a call. And that's part of your insurance program, especially within IRMA. So it's a 3.5 hour program. It's all interactive. I think you'll learn a lot. And again, it's no charge as long as you're a member of the insurance pools. And you can participate in that. And I would highly recommend that you have at least one person. Would actually recommend that you have one person within your law enforcement, sheriff's office, and then one person in the rest for the rest of the organization, so that that person is trained on when, if there is a crisis that occurs, let's say that there is a sheriff's office shooting, or let's say there is a death, or let's say that we spilled a chemical, or whatever the crisis might be, that you'll be able to identify that, and then you'll be able to prepare. It's bad to have a crisis, but it's even worse sometimes when you have a crisis and you don't communicate it appropriately, and that's what this training does. The other bullet point is the safety action plan for both insurance programs. Again, the expectation that we did a few years back is that you need to have a safety action plan, but only one if you're in 2 programs. And that needs to be with us by April 30th. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but that's an important comment. Again, the next bullet point is complete eligibility requirements. Again, for the 2022 safety ACCG safety discount program, you must have it must be completed between October 1st, 2020 and September 15, 2021. The premise behind those dates is it's not a week before the loss control rep comes to do a verification that you complete these things. It should be a continual process where you're driving safety throughout the year, safety and risk management. You're doing the training, you're doing the inspections, and we're going to talk about all of those things. I have a question here. Since I completed the crisis coordinated program, do I still need to provide a summary of the webinars? If you completed it and you're using it for this year, the answer is no. Just show that it's an either or. So if you've completed this crisis coordinator, you do not need to show the webinar. So they'll provide you a certificate. You show that certificate and you're good to go. Great question. Thank you for that question. The next piece is apply for the safety discount program. Again, the application should be submitted between August 2nd and no later than September 15th. So if I was you, if I were you out there and I was responsible for submitting that application, I would put a little tickler or appointment on my calendar, whether it's an electronic calendar or if you have a hard copy calendar, something that reminds you on August 2nd, you need to have that, you can send that application in. And, you know, I would put maybe one, if you're a little bit of a procrastinator, I might put one on August 15th or, and remind you that you need to get that application in, because by September 15th, they're due. And that's, if it's September 16th, that's too late at that point in time. So put those ticklers in your calendar as a reminder. Again, the safety grant, if you qualified for the safety discount last year, then you will qualify for the safety grant this year. Again, electronic versions of all these programs, as we talked about, are at those below addresses. So look for those. Lots of great material. Look at that website. If you need something, it can be in there. If you can't find it there, then you can contact us and we will be happy to help you with those items. So we're looking at additional requirements for both insurance programs. So if you're in workers' compensation and or IRMA, in order to meet the requirements, you'll have to meet all these expectations. So a safety coordinator must be appointed. And again, we want somebody beyond just an appointment. Again, the old joke is, who's the safety coordinator? Well, it's the person that walked by my office at the inappropriate time. We want somebody that has leadership skills as a safety coordinator. We want somebody that doesn't have to do all the safety related items, but at least needs to be able to coordinate those, be able to work with other leaders within the organization, with the department managers, with department directors, with the county administrator or county manager, be able to provide information with them and drive process. So you want somebody that has some level of qualifications ultimately, and that is going to be a true safety coordinator versus just somebody within title only. That safety coordinator will have to attend safety coordinator 1, 2, and 3 training. And again, depending on when you entered that particular organization, you would need, basically within the first 3 years, you would have to take those 3 courses. Again, because of COVID, we have not provided modules 2 or 3 the last 2 years. So we're going to be fairly flexible on that. We have provided an online version of Safety Coordinator 1 in 2001, and we have provided it in 2002. We'll probably provide another one. And we'll more than likely at the end of the year, if everything turns out well in regards to COVID results, we'll start doing regional training again and provide that particular training. So we will be flexible, but typically the expectation is if you were a safety coordinator in your first year, you would have had attended at least one of those modules. If you were a safety coordinator for 2 years, you would have attended at least 2, and 3 years, you would have attended 3 modules. So that's the expectation. Coordinate safety training and implement safety rules. Again, for supervisors and employees, safety coordinator will ensure that appropriate documentation is posted at or near job site that instructs injured employee how they should proceed in the event of an on-site accident. So you should have some type of incident reporting process, talks about how they report it, what they do for getting medical treatment, things to that effect, posted at their job site, and that's an expectation. Coordinate safety inspections. Again, we'll be looking for basically periodic safety inspections, and around 4 of those, one per quarter. It would ideally have your entire facility inspected on that and have that coordinated. You know, is it likely that one person is going to conduct all those inspections of all the buildings throughout? Probably not, and nor do we want that. Ideally, if you were going to do this the way we would like you would have a team of people. You would have a safety inspection team, and that might be members from each department. And you might start off with providing them training and developing a checklist specifically for the department. So let's say that you were over public works. You might have a checklist that really focuses on shop-related issues, or maybe potentially on past incidents they've had. Or let's say you're within an office specifically, you might have a checklist that focuses on offices. Or if you're in law enforcement or fire, checklists that focus on those particular items. Looking at housekeeping or other issues that might relate to injuries or liability claims. And then eventually, after you get people used to conducting inspections in their own department, maybe the next time you would switch off and have other people team up and inspect other departments. But to meet this expectation, you would just need to have some type of documentation that shows you've had periodic inspections of vehicles, buildings, and grounds, equipment and machinery within your organization. Again, the next bullet point, coordinate department quarterly safety meetings. Again, a minimum of 4 safety review meetings must be held each year. And again, we don't want those 4 meetings to be held the week before. Ideally, these would be planned at the beginning of the year when you're going to put these out. We can provide that material. You can use our safety theme. You can use our new safety magazine. You can call us up and you can ask for videos. You can do all types of different ways. You can take some of the online training and project it as a group. But the expectation is you're going to get your department together and you're going to provide safety related training at least 4 times a year. And we'd like to see attendance records of those trainings. The next piece is coordinate quarterly safety committee meetings. Again, the expectation with this, ideally, you would have a safety committee, and on that safety committee would be representatives from each department. And there might be frontline employees and there might be frontline leaders, and there might be department managers. You might have an equal amount of frontline employees and leaders within your organization. And within that meeting, you would look at multiple agenda items. Maybe you might look at inspections, you might look at training, but ultimately we'd really like to see you review accidents and incidents that have occurred within your particular organization. So you'd look at those and see, what happened within the incident, what was the root cause, what did we do to recommend for corrective action. That would be the expectation. Again, records are maintained that those meetings have occurred, so notes would be taken, and you'd say who attended, and then what did you cover, and that would be the expectation to meet that particular requirement. The next bullet point is really talking about the things we've already talked about, the attendance at a regional training. Again, you can attend the 3 webinars with a couple paragraphs supporting those, or the crisis coordinator. And let me just say this one more time. We would highly recommend that you attend the crisis coordinator training. At least one person within your organization should complete that training. But ideally, you would have one person within your within the sheriff's office or law enforcement, and then one person for the rest of the organization. They should be contacted for that. Here's a couple questions. Will localgovu.com classes count for education credits? No, it will not at this time. So that is not going to be counted. We might look at something in the future, but the 2 options are attending the webinars and or the crisis coordinator training, which is interactive, and hopefully regional training by the end of the year. Question, our department heads utilize the safety theme. When will the new ones be posted? So the safety theme, if you look at our new publication called Share, the safety theme is included in that. It's at the latter part of that. So we send that out once a month, and that safety theme with these item that can be used in department specific meetings with the quiz and everything else is posted within that shared document. So you can find that there. If you go down to the next ones, members agree to cooperate and support the efforts of local government risk management services. So if a loss control consultant or risk consultant comes to your location and they make recommendations, we would like to see you respond in writing within 90 days. So you don't necessarily have to complete those or correct all those recommendations, but we do want to see we do want to see you respond in writing within 90 days, and that's an expectation. One of the questions, where do you find Share again? So Share is a publication that we send out on a monthly basis. If you're not receiving that publication, send me an email and I'll ensure you are on the next distribution of the Share publication. So if you're not receiving it, let me know. We'd love to get you be a part of it. That's sent out electronically. It's actually a very beautiful publication. Tammy Chapman does a great job of, and others do a great job of producing that. And it's very, lots of great information on that. Here's another question. I want to make sure that I heard properly. The safety committee meetings, you need when the meeting was held, who attended, and what the topics were discussed. You don't need any individual forms that's correct. You're correct. So you don't need the individual forms for that, but just basically one page. This is the date of the meeting. These are the people that were in attendance, and this is what we discussed during it. That will meet that expectation. Okay? Excellent questions. I'm going to give you guys all gold stars. You're doing fantastic. The next piece is, again, the members shall implement and oversee a drug-free workplace. You'll, again, post this notice. You'll have a drug-free workplace policy. If you want some of this information, you can go to that particular site and you'll find these documents there. Seatbelt policy. Again, seatbelt policy must be implemented and enforced by the member. So, it's pretty easy to have a seatbelt policy. It's difficult to manage a seatbelt policy. And I would highly recommend, and again, this is a recommendation, if you have a policy statement that states people are required to wear, you should have some level of training, that you communicate that to your employees. Just having it a policy doesn't mean anything. But ideally, again, if you do the policy statement, you communicate it to your employees, that will basically meet the expectation. But I would highly recommend, this is important. We have a lot of employees that have passed away because they have failed to wear a seatbelt. And I would highly recommend that you have a sound policy and you provide high-level quality training. You not only say, hey, you're required to wear the seatbelt while working with an organization, but you tell them why. And you don't just do that once, you do that maybe at least once a year, and you talk about that piece. And then on top of that, you train your supervisors on how to conduct assessments and provide feedback to their employees in regards to managing this program. By just having a statement and telling people to wear a seatbelt and not having those other steps, ultimately you're not going to have good compliance. And this is a very, very key implement in saving lives. So again, provide quality training, train your supervisors on how to provide feedback to their employees and then spot check. I've known members that have stood outside where vehicles are coming in and out of parking lots and watched and provided feedback to employees. That's a great way to tell people you care. I got a question here. Can you email this presentation? I missed the first 15 minutes. Again, I will be sending the presentation and also be sending the recording to everyone that was registered to this meeting. So you're good. Here's a question. Are safety inspections required quarterly or annually? Again, periodically. So again, multiple times a year, we'd like to see you conduct safety inspections. We have not said it's quarterly. I would suggest at least quarterly walking around. If you do them twice a year, you're probably in pretty good shape in regards to meeting the requirements. Okay, good question. Cell phone policy. Cell phone must be implemented and enforced by the member. Let's see, you got another question. Isn't it possible that if an employee is involved in an accident, it's not wearing a seatbelt, workers' compensation may not cover the injury? I'm not going to comment on that. I'm not sure. I'd have to check and see. I don't have that level of expertise within Georgia workers' compensation law. But I'll say this again, for your own employees, if you want to show them you care about this issue, you will enforce that particular policy, because it does have an direct impact on those employees. Again, we've had many fatal injuries that have resulted from people being ejected out of their motor vehicle, but also the impact to their family and to the organization as a whole. Again, the cell phone policy, you should have a cell phone policy. Again, a lot of this is regarding driving. So again, same basic thing, communicating it in the policy, providing training, but ultimately distracted driving, we don't have that as an expectation. If you want to go beyond this, I would talk about things beyond cell phones. We're constantly, distracted while we're driving. We're messing with the radio. There's all kinds of distractions within our thing. And again, to somebody else, what about law enforcement? Law enforcement, again, the same basic piece. So you'll have to have a policy that really addresses law enforcement when they can use cell phones, personal cell phones, talking on the radio, a variety of other things. And we do have sample policy, as you can see down there, that does all of those things. You can kind of read through it. I'm not going to go through that right now. but we do have policies that answer all those particular questions. And again, don't hesitate. If you have a question, please don't hesitate to pick up the phone and give me a call or call your risk control representative. Great questions. Thank you so much. Safety action plan. We're going to talk about this a little bit more in depth. This is a big item. And again, I think like many things, this is something you probably can go through the motions on. I would ask you not to go through the motions. It's extremely important. This is a very valuable piece for you and your organization to go through, so that you're working towards reducing incidents. So this is the safety action plan. And if you go to that original page that I talked about within ACCG insurance, you'll find this particular a link to a fillable form. You can type everything in there. It's nice and clear. We're going to go through this and kind of the expectations. Just for an FYI, I'm going to go through this quickly. I only have a few slides to talk about this. I'm going to do a much more in-depth version of action planning and loss analysis next Tuesday. If you want to attend that, if you want to specialize in action planning, please plan to attend that particular event. So some questions, and again, this is all included within the brochure. What is the purpose of the safety action plan? It's really to ensure you know what, and your leaders in your organization know what, where your incidents are occurring, what departments, what type of trends you have, and then you are putting something into place to assist with the reduction of those. The question is, where do we sign up for the safety action plan training event? I will try and remember to send the link within the email, and you can register for it there. So if you signed up for this event, more than likely that event, that webinar event was right below this one. So you'll be able to see that. So great question. But I'll send that link to you within the email I sent to all people that registered along with the recordings. Who develops the safety action plan? Well, again, the safety coordinator and/or anybody responsible for that will help coordinate it, but ultimately, we'd like to see it develop at the department level. The people that run that particular department where the biggest losses are should be really ingrained in developing that. And it shouldn't just be the department manager. It should be multiple people within that area that know what the issues are. Again, the ultimate is to push it down to that frontline level so that they know what those issues are and they are engaged in developing a plan to address that. Where's the fillable safety action plan? I talked about that. You can see the address there. How does the member receive a loss trend analysis? So you should have all received the loss trend analysis from the risk control people. If you have not received those, or if you want additional information, contact me and I'll get that information to you. How are focus office department identified? We're going to talk about that. I'll show you the loss analysis, and then what the loss analysis, the other piece, we'll talk about that. How does a risk reduction goal set? Again, it really depends. We'll talk about that more in next week's presentation. But for example, if you have your focus area is motor vehicle incidents, and last year you had 10 motor vehicle incidents, you might want to say, well, we want to cut that down by 25%. Or let's say you're going to be aggressive. You're really disgusted with, you want to cut it about 50%. Or let's say you want to cut it down to 0. You would set that goal in that particular fashion. How is the safety action plan developed to address loss type focus? You know, it really ultimately comes down to identifying the root cause of the particular issue and then putting plans in place to address the root cause. We're going to talk about that much more in depth in next Tuesday's presentation. Who needs to sign the action plan? And really, we want the department managers that are the focus departments to sign it along with the county manager or somebody that has overall responsibility. And the premise is that we want them to know what their losses are, that they have opportunities within their department, and that they're going to be held responsible to implement the plans that they've put in place. And that's the premise behind them signing it, and we'll talk about that. When does the safety action plan need to be completed? Again, it needs to be completed and submitted to me or your safety risk consultant, your Chris Ryan, Vincent Scott, Steve Shields, by April 30th. So personally, I would start working on it today. It's April 1st tomorrow, and that's not April Fool's, but I would put particulars on your calendar so that you're working to get that completed in time for April 30th. The only training I see on the LGRMS calendar is below 100. Yeah, it's not, it's probably, we've sent it out in a separate email. I will attach it within the registration for next week's webinar in an email to you. A good question, and thanks for checking. This is a copy of a ACCG work comp claims rate. That's one of the first pages within your loss control analysis. And just looking at this, this shows, I took it back to 2019, but it shows that an organization's accounting from 2017, 2018, and 2019. And really this is a percentage of claims per 100 employees. And this is claims over 500. And the premise is, it really kind of gives you a claims rate. So their 3-year average is about 2.63. And they're a large member. They would be considered. So on a general, the large members, or actually they're an extra large member, the extra large members are at 3.58. So they're actually doing pretty good compared to the extra large members and overall to the pool. So it's a way to just see how you're doing comparatively. Again, this is the department piece. So if I'm going to look at this particular item, I would see from the number of claims, law enforcement's big, fire's big. I would look at the total costs of the claims. I would see, it looks like fire has the biggest opportunity. Public works is pretty big, law enforcement. And sometimes, and again, we're going to talk about this next week more, you don't want to you want to focus on departments that you have a good relationship, that are going to be cooperative. Let's say, for instance, that law enforcement or your sheriff's office is your biggest opportunity, but they have in the past have not provided any level of cooperation with you in regards to this process. Well, again, I would still meet with them. I would share with them the data and say, hey, this is what we'd like to do. But if they still decline to meet with you or to participate in the action planning process, I'd move on to your department that you think you're going to have an opportunity with. The next piece, again, is a slide that really talks about where your claims are, your analysis are. And this is the sheriff's office of this particular county. And you can see this is workers' compensation claims. Again, motor vehicle number of claims, that's your biggest opportunity there. But if you go on to the costs, lifting is a big issue. Arrests and altercations are a big issue. And again, you're going to look at things not just based on numbers. You're going to have to take it based on your own feelings to some extent. Numbers tell a story, but they don't tell necessarily the whole story. So lifting might be your biggest cost of claims, but based on the incident might have been a one-off claim. Arrest might be your biggest thing, but you might have a difficult time controlling that. So you want to focus on these things you're going to have the best opportunity to controlling and having the biggest impact in regards to your organization. Or let's say, for instance, within this, you have all these issues here, but your biggest risk for maybe catastrophic injury that you haven't had any trends on, but this is a big risk, that you want to focus on this other issue. Let's say it's training. That's your biggest issue because you have a big hazard is in training, and maybe that's where you want to focus in. But you guys have more expertise than we'll ever have within your organization, within your departments, and we're relying on you even to go beyond the numbers and do your own analysis and look at things beyond losses and look at things you identified a risk. And those are things that we'd like you to focus in on. We'll trust you. If you put the work in on it, we'll trust you that you're putting the work in on it. If you look at, this is a safety action plan. I think it was pretty well done. You have a fire department and public works. It's the top two lists, talks about where their injuries are going, and then it has a simple action plan. Again, talks about each of those. And we're going to talk about those more, but that's what we would be looking for regarding your action plan. And this is, again, the signature portion of that, extremely critical that you print the name of those top elected official or administrator or manager of the county along with their signatures for the leader of Department 1 and leader of Department 2. The premise is, again, that they will know where their losses are, they will know where their trends are, they will know they own that action plan and they're responsible for completing the action plan. Question here, Dan, our county receives a loss history, however, it does not contain all of the docs you just talked about. So if you don't have those, if you need more information, you want more information, send me an email after this or pick up the phone and give me a call and we'll see what we can do to help you out. Okay? Good question. Excellent question. Again, in regards to the IRMA claims, if you have IRMA insurance, property and liability with us, we're going to be looking for these policies in addition to the other issues for the, again, this is for the discount. Hiring, termination, employee safety, our supervisor training, harassment, EEOC, email, internet policy, drugs, motor vehicles. Again, why are we looking at these? Why are these important? Because these are where our claims are coming from. And we want to make sure you have policies in place that address those. Those are the things we're looking for. Again, same things from the sheriff's office. Hiring and termination, employee supervisor training, harassment, EEOC. If they're different from the counties, we'd be looking for those particular policies. And then plus motor vehicle operation, our biggest loss as a whole is within sheriff's office or law enforcement motor vehicle operations. And pursuits is a big part of that. Use of force hasn't been a huge claim process, but we suspect based on national trends that it's going to be a big issue in the future. Arrests, again, we've got a lot of claims for false arrests and other things. Internal affairs, because just making sure you're watching what you're doing. And then making sure harassment training has been provided, documented on an annual basis. Again, jail and county facility, looking for inmate medical, jail suicide, civil rights, all those issues are big items on that. And then looking for MVR reports on all your drivers. So do you have a process to manage that? Question, does this OSHA 30-hour general industry certification count towards training? We have not counted that in the past. I would say that potentially that might be something that's a pretty big commitment. And if you've completed that this year, and if you worked it out with your risk consultant, I wouldn't be opposed to giving you credit for attending that particular training, because I do think there's some value for it. So I would suggest if you've attended that, or if you're planning to attend it, work it out with your risk consultant or call or write me, and we'll try and work that out. So we're going to, again, this is for workers' compensation. You want to have an employee orientation where you're looking at the Bill of Rights, the Physician's Bill of Rights. Those should all be updated and looked at. The seatbelt policy, return to work policy. Again, return to work is so critical in regards to workers' compensation claims. The quicker you can return people back to work, the more likely you're going to be successful in reducing your costs. So just keep that in mind, and there's a sample policy there. Again, let's talk about the 2021 Employee Safety Grant Program. Very similar to what we did last year. Again, we're very blessed to have this program approved by ACCGs, group self-insured Self-Insurance Workers' Compensation Fund Board, they allotted $1.5 million in grant funds for 2019, 2020, and 2021. Again, $500,000 are eligible for 2021, actually, that should read. And we came close to spending the entire $500,000 in 2020. So again, the money's out there. You need to take advantage of it. If you don't take advantage of it, you're wasting money and wasting really opportunities to improve your safety within your organization. Examples of eligible requests include fees for safety-related courses, personal protective equipment, body armor, fire department turnout gear, washer dryers for gear, ergo equipment, first aid equipment. The question that you'll be asked is, how will this reduce workers' compensation claims? If you can state how it will reduce workers' compensation claims, how it will reduce workers' injuries, how it will keep your employer safer, more than likely we will approve it. So the question is, what is the maximum per county? And I think I'm going to talk about that. If I don't talk about that, ask that question again. So the grant eligibility, again, must be an active member at the time of the distribution, must have earned the 2021 ACCG GS IWSCF safety discount and have their action plan, and must be current in payments of contributions to that particular fund. Again, this is, I think, answers that particular question. You are eligible depends on the premium that you have, and I don't have those numbers with me right now, but you can, again, basically you can check on your premium and you can use that particular graph to help you do that. Again, grants will be distributed on a first come, first served approved basis, and they must be, all purchases must be made prior to December 1st, 2021. How do I know my premium or grant reimbursement amount? Again, I would talk to your insurance contact. They can tell you your premium amount. You can look at the chart, or you can just send me an email and I'll tell you how much that you're eligible for based on other things. So just send me an email if you have that question, you want specific information on the grant amount that you're approved for. Again, more than likely you will be approved for the same amount that you were last year if you received the grant last year. Again, requirements. We want you to send in your safety action plan. The reason for this is ideally we'd have your safety action plan, or the items you requested would relate to your safety action plan. So if you want motor vehicle reduction, potentially you would have an item that helps with that, or some other related item, you'd have an item that helps with that. It doesn't have to, but ideally you would have an item on there, or items that you're requesting relate to your safety action plan. And we want to make sure that you do that. And I'm going to talk about what the deadline is shortly. So hold on with that question. And again, SOPs and policies. So for certain type of equipment, we will be looking for, your standard operating procedures or a policy, and it mostly compliance related issues. So if, let's say that you have equipment such as respirators or AEDs or trenching equipment or body armor, we want to make sure you have a policy that governs those particular items. So for example, respirators, OSHA requires a policy if you are to wear and operate respirators or SCBAs. And I would like to make sure before we purchase those equipment for you that you have a policy that regulates that. What type of respirators you use, who's going to be using those, what kind of training are they going to have, how are they going to be inspected, how are they going to be stored, all of those particular things. And again, if you don't provide that, we'll provide feedback that we'd like to see those things. Other items that are more general basis, we don't necessarily need to see those things. So if you want cones, we don't necessarily need to see it. Or let's say turnout gear, we don't necessarily need to see policies regarding that. But we'd like to see policies on more compliance-related items. Procedures, again, for getting your safety grant. Complete the employee safety grant application. And we're going to talk about those dates in the last bullet point here. Include a copy of the current safety action plan as I talked about. Include a list of items and their expected costs. And we're going to talk more about that in just a little bit. And then submit the application and requested documentation to ACCG Insurance at accg.org between May 1st, 2021 and August 30th, 2021. So you should be receiving the new brochure and application within the next few weeks. You can send your application in on May 1st, and again, need to do it before August 30th. So again, when you send in your application, you may receive an email back saying, hey, we need additional information. You'll receive it from Courtney Stepter, who helps assess those and manages those. This is an email that you might receive from her, sample email. Again, grant distribution of funds. It's really based on what we receive. Once we receive the application, we'll review that within 2 weeks. Each fully completed request will be processed in the order received. We'll look at those. Again, the Director of Property and Casualty Insurance Program, the Deputy Director of Insurance Programs, and myself will review those, and then we'll send a letter back or email back to you looking at the approval, and I'll show you an approved email. Again, let's see, all proof of purchase needs to be sent to us by December 1st. And again, we like to get these processed before the end of the year. So by doing that by December 1st, we'll be able to get those processed within the month of December. And then grant funds will be expected to be sent within 3 weeks upon receipt of the paid invoices. So this is an approval email that I'll send to the insurance contact, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Pretty standard language. Again, if you look at the first green bullet point, provide a copy of an invoice paid or marked paid, or a copy of a payment check of the items provided. Ideally, again, the invoice marked paid with details is great. We'd like to see that. If you look at the thing that's identified as new, complete and include a proof of purchase reconciliation document. I'm going to talk about that in the next slide. And the next piece is, if convenient, please send a picture of your employees using the equipment for future publications. We'd like to promote this. We want to encourage people to participate. It's a great program, and the more you can show, or the stories you can tell of people using this equipment, the better it is for the program. I'll tell you, this doesn't occur within ACCG, but it occurred within GMA. I got an email or a phone call from somebody that had submitted a request for an AED. They said that they had a heart attack, and that AED was used for them to resuscitate them. That person that submitted the that grant request for GMA for an ED, that received the AED, had a heart attack and was resuscitated by that AED. So that grant saved their life. That was an article that we put out. It's a great story. Any story like that is something we'd love to promote and tell the great news to other people. This is the proof of purchase reconciliation document. The premise is, I want to know, again, specifically what you're looking for in regards to the amount you paid and what you're looking for in reimbursement. Sometimes you'll send in proof of purchase documents. They might have multiple items on there that weren't reimbursable in regards to the grant. I would like to know, based on what you've submitted, specifically the vendor's name, the item that you're requesting, and the amount paid that you want to see reimbursed. It just makes it much easier. I don't have to pick up the phone, ask for clarification. It's clear in this. It makes it a more productive process. It makes it easier for me, and ultimately makes it ensure that you get your check sooner. This is, again, the application, and we're going to go through this. No changes. Basically, we want to make sure that the contact information is correct. So it's extremely important that we have the member name, whether county or authority that you on there, and then the contact person's name. Who should if I have a question, or if Courtney Stepter has a question, who should we call or who should we write in regards to these questions? Make sure you write this clearly. Again, type it in. Ensure it's accurate contact information, because if it's not accurate, we're going to have a difficult time sending you emails that items are approved or questions getting those approved. Again, item name. We don't need a specific brand. We don't need a specific model. We just need a generic. So if we're going to put body armor or bulletproof vest, you can put that. You don't need to put in Billy Bob's body armor. We want to know how that's going to reduce workers' compensation risk. And again, you can be pretty simple, but put an example of what, how it's going to help reduce those injuries to your employees. That's important to us. That's how we'll determine whether we're going to approve it or not. And then the estimated cost. Again, you can just put your best guess there. You don't have to have an estimated cost. A lot of times, if you get a quote, it's not the same as what's actually billed because of shipping and other things, and we pay for those items in regards to it. And again, I'll talk about this a little bit later. But if you have $10,000, I would request $15,000 worth of items, because you don't have to, and I wouldn't pay for them until you've gotten those approved. I wouldn't order those until you got approved. So let's say you send in, you have $10,000 worth of grant eligibility, and you send in $20,000 worth of items, and we approve all $20,000. You can go back and say, hey, we want to get this item, and we want to do $10,000 with that item. Or you can say, we're going to distribute it throughout that list. You can prioritize it after you send us that list. You can purchase and prioritize. And just to make it more flexible on you, put your wish list out there, and we'll look at those, and we'll say which have been approved and which items have not been approved. It will make it easier for you to order them. And again, just to make sure you have the funds to pay for these things, I would not purchase those until you've already been approved by us. Again, ideally, you'll follow your action plan. It'll help reduce those incidents. Ideally, you do not have to do that. Think big risk reduction. Again, avoid using this for little items. If it's less than $500 or less than $100 specifically, think big. Find something that's going to have an impact to reducing your claims. And buying, gloves or buying minor safety equipment, we really encourage you to think big items that are going to help reduce ergonomic related issues, or big items that are going to help motor vehicle related issues. What can I impact the most? Again, what's going to have the biggest impact in regards to your organization? We want to have something that's going to help reduce injuries. Again, once approved, you can prioritize exactly what I said previously. If you have 5,000, send in more items that what you expect. You can always remove those or prioritize based on what we've approved. Again, I would highly recommend that you get your safety committee or other people involved in the items. So ask them. They might say, you know what, we really need this issue. We really need this thing, we need this taken care of. This is something that we think is a major hazard and it hasn't been controlled. Or we need this particular new piece of equipment. This piece of equipment has been broken down. Get them people engaged. Give those people ownership and power. This is a great way to help change the culture of your organization. Again, we have a city that does that, and they get their safety committee, and it really has transformed the culture of that particular organization. Let's see, I go 300 to 400 over the grant money and explain that I can get 8,900 worth of safety gear for $400. Easy sell. Very good comment. Very good comment. Again, looking for making sure that your safety action or application checklist, that you've included your action plan, that your purchase orders and receipts are included if you put that in there, and then having the chairman or executive director sign that so they know that you're applying for this particular grant. The premise is, you know, we don't want one grant coming from the fire department, or one application from the fire department, one application coming from sheriff's office, and so on. We want those to be determined on a centralized basis from your organization. Did you really say that our amount is $2,500? We could actually be approved for much more with a good list. Again, if we'd have to, you're not going to be approved. You're eligible for what you're eligible for. So it's all based on your premium level. So if you are eligible for $2,500, that's all you're going to be a get. But what I would ask you to do is request for items above $2,500. So if you're eligible for $2,500, I would look in the grant for $5,000, and then based on approval, you're going to have to identify what you're going to spend the money on for $2,500. Versus, I have one item that I want something for $2,500. I've got one item for $2,000. That's what I'm going to request, and you leave $500 on the table. I'm saying request more, and if we've approved those items, then you can mix and match those items to get to the level that you're approved for. So hopefully that clarifies things. I'm sorry if I misled you in regards to that. Again, important dates and info. To be eligible for the Employee Safety Grant must be completed between May 1st and August 30th. Get those applications in. The quicker the better. You know, again, I'd put that on your tickler on your calendar to get those applications in. Important to do that. All purchases are made before December 1st. Again, we recommend that you purchase items after approval, and you do that. Again, give yourself the ability and surety that those things are going to be supported by the grant. Submit these applications to that particular email address and subject line Employee Safety Grant Program. Originals are not necessary. The opportunity to receive the grant fund is just one of the many benefits of being a member of ACCG Workers' Compensation Fund. What's the biggest benefit? You get to listen to this webinar. That's probably the one. You should be very grateful for such a fantastic webinar today. And then if you have any questions on anything, you can always just pick up the phone and give me a call. You can call my office number, or you can call my cell phone number. My cell phone number is 404-558-1874. Again, Dan Beck, 404-558-1874. I'll be happy to call. And you can call my office number too, or you can, somebody's calling me right now, or you can email me at this, or you can email Ashley Abercrombie in regards to any questions or comments regarding that. And that is the end of the presentation. Let's see, it is 3:01, so almost perfect on the nose in regards to this. Let's open it up for any questions that you may or may not have. Does anybody have any questions? You mentioned earlier about share. If that is that found on your website? I'm not sure if we've gotten it up there yet. We've only produced it the last 2 months. It should be on the website, but I'm not sure if it is. But if you send me an email, I can get you on the list, and it will be sent to you, and we can send you all the old copies also if you request that. Dan, members can also email or call me as well, and that's Joe Dan Thompson, and you can definitely email Joe Dan. He's going to be sending out some information after this webinar. Thank you for the information. Great presentation. Again, thank you for that comment. They are on the website, Christy has said. So thank you for looking at that there. I appreciate that. And you get, somebody has an address. It's www.lgrms.com/resource/share.aspx. Again, thank you so very much, everyone. Appreciate your your patience and your assistance and your leadership and participation in the day. Stay safe, stay healthy. You're doing God's work out there. Keep your folks safe. Do what you can. We really appreciate everything you guys do on a daily basis. So thank you very much.